lady for her questioning. Now it's my privilege to yield 5 minutes to Mr. Massie. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I want to thank you, Director Carvajal, for your staff being responsive to one of my inquiries about how many vaccination exemptions have been granted at the BOP. It looks like as of January 20th, there were 4,738 exemptions. Most of them were religious exemptions. Instead of asking you, I want to inform you that this has had a very negative effect on the morale of the officers. The fact that they are required to live under a vaccine mandate and the inmates are not. It's interesting that the inmates have more rights than the officers themselves. They also resent that they've had to apply for religious exemptions when in fact they should have been granted a medical exemption, but at least some of them have been able to get the exemptions. And you may want to check in on whether you've completely suspended this mandate, because there are officers who are still required to do the weekly testing if they're not vaccinated per the mandate, and also to certify that they have a religious exemption. Even as of this week, they've had to do that. So, but I appreciate the accommodations that you have made, because it will negatively affect morale and recruiting if we do keep this vaccine mandate in place. I want to ask you how many correctional officers were budgeted for the BOP by Congress? I think I'll give you my number. It's not a gotcha. The number I have, I'm just trying to see if it's correct, is 20,446.
Yes, Congressman. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. Specific correctional officers, what we call the correctional officer that work those posts, is approximately 14,000. The 20,000 you're referring to is 6,000 additional support positions that fall under the correctional officer series. This is a classification issue, and it's often confusing. That encumbers other positions that work in correctional services, but the actual true correctional officers that we look at is approximately 14,000.
Have the 6,000 been hired?
We have currently, Congressman, about 1,100 correctional officer vacancies right now. Almost half of those are at 7 locations that are hard to fill.
Okay. There's one facility in my district, the Ashland FCI, where 5 years ago they had 130 officers, and now they have 100, and they're told they're going to 98, yet they've got more inmates. And we see that augmentation is being used there. So I'm concerned that the inmates are going up and the officers are going down, because I'd like for it to be a safe environment. And I think if it's understaffed, it's not safe. Also, they're utilizing overtime virtually every day at that facility. And it would be cheaper for the taxpayers if we had more slots filled. And I've heard that augmentation is being used there to backfill some of those slots. And I'm not going to debate whether they're trained enough. You've already addressed that, and you assured us that they are. But what is augmentation, and where do those people come from when they go serve in roles that correctional officers might otherwise fill? Oh, I think you're muted, Director.
Sorry. Augmentation is a necessary tool that we use in our agency to make sure that we complete the first part of our mission first, and that's to keep everyone safe and secure in order to be able to do the second part of our mission, which is give people a chance to return. As you stated, we try not to do it, but it's certainly a tool that we have to use. We use people from other disciplines such as teachers, nurses, things of that nature. We try to limit that. Those decisions are based upon a roster locally. The CEO makes those determinations. I stated earlier, we have approximately 1,100 correctional officer vacancies. I'd like to stress, Congressman, that we are funded at 90%. We have 38,884 positions. We are funded for 35,161. That's about 3,723 vacancies, that about $500 million we're short. Our correctional officer fill rate got as high as 94%. It's currently 92%. So our goal is to fill every single position that we are funded for, but I can't spend money we don't have.
Okay, well, I would like for you to look specifically at Ashland FCI. And my concern about augmentation should be a concern we all have, is when you take people away from being teachers to being guards or other services, then the teaching doesn't happen. And then we could see higher recidivism, because we know that vocational schools and education correlate to recidivism. So I would hope that you can get those slots filled, that we can get more slots, we can rely less on overtime and less on pulling those teachers away who are so important for, and the other people who are important for complying with First Step Act. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for indulging me, and I yield back.